All right, so screen sharing. We are continuing to decipher this column. And last time I said that we can read it either as a statement, assertion, or as a question. And I initially planned to do both ways, but probably you can do it on your own the second way, namely as a question. And for now, we'll trust the two editors. As I probably mentioned, the editor in Patrologia Graeca also took it as an assertion, and the Latin translation there is kind of corresponds to this reading. And so I think it makes sense to trust the expertise, for at least in the class. And I welcome you to, some people do translate it, take it as a question, that I may tell you, but so you may try to do the exercise. Okay, Adam, are you? Mm-hmm.
Oh, I had a question. I was having trouble locating the the relevant passage in the PDF of the Scholia because it seems like I guess I'm not clear on how the numeration is key to the Lila edition. So can you say like what?
Right. I probably mentioned it, but well, first of all, it's if you take the PDF file, it's do you see on the screen page 115 for now, right? So that's the reference. So, and that's just that's of course not a general rule. That's just for now. But you see here, it gives the particular passage on which it gives what's a commentary, right? You see it on the screen, right?
Yeah, I guess my confusion was that in the Lila edition, the marginal number for this section we were reading is 588A rather than like.
Right. So what this editor Zuchla does, she gives a ref 185B is a reference to volume 4, part 2 of Patrologia Graeca. I think, if I'm not correct, but if you probably do not have Patrologia Graeca handy. If you do, just tell me and I will explain how to use it. But if you do not, here Zuchla gives reference to line and page in her edition, which precedes Lila's edition of Divine Names. And I did send you a file with her edition. Here it is, like, you see page 108.
Oh.
And if after the comma, she puts the line number, 1, 2, 3, 4. And here you have this expression, katatin kritana tis kathemas logikis. You see it right on the screen now.
Yeah.
All right. So, and here you also, in that edition of Lila, you see 588A, which is again Patrologia Graeca pagination, which you find in Lila, right? It's the same and should be the same in Lila. So, so if you want, to navigate within the Scholia, you can either go by these citations which Zuchla provides, and they are actually also in the manuscript because the person in this case, Jonas of Schizopolis, I think he indicates these expressions on which he comments. But also you can go by Zuchla's pagination, which you can do because you have Zuchla's edition. right? So also, if you have access to TLG, TLG has Zuchla's edition in it. And also in TLG, you can find, if you go by TLG, you can go by this 108 4, right?
I was able to get a hard copy of Leela, and that's what I've been using. I think that was why I was.
Oh, all right, all right. It's
Yeah.
very good. You also have a translation, so you can cheat. Kidding. It's not cheating, of course. It's just, please, actually, that's, I'm telling people in my classes, it's not counted as cheating. You can use any translations. Of course, there are no translations of this particular scholar anyway in English that I could see. There's one in Russian. It's very bad translation, so I don't advise you to, even if you know Russian. Anyway, so any questions more about this technical matters? Well, if not, then let's, since last time we stopped, Adam was doing this, maybe, and we go alphabetically, as you know, so Cole as the next victim. But of course you can, you know, in the, as angel may appear, and so
Let's hope.
Right. Okay, so let's try beginning with this epithet ton asomaton malon deke hyperasomaton. So this is whatever line I hope you see it on the screen.
Yes, yeah.
Mm.
So regarding the bodiless things and much more regarding hyper bodiless things and above and beings above being, how could one know in a reasonable way and in a well, I couldn't find this word, anarminevtos.
Do you have access to Lampa dictionary?
Yeah, I should. I have it on a tab here.
Yeah, but let's not. But could you find even an LSJ? Could you find an adjective which would differ that it have omicron instead of omega?
Yeah,
So go by that, because adverbs are regularly formed. I mean, the meaning of
right,
of an adverb can be.
right. Yeah, so I get inexplicable or indescribable.
Yeah, that's one of the meanings, but how do you
Inexplicably. So in a, how could one know um, logically and inexplicably if if no part to the highest, if no part led to the highest of the mind.
Where, I'm sorry, where did you take it part and
Oh,
led?
sorry, mollis is
Yes, Mollis. If
oh,
anyone knows,
scarcely.
yes, hard with difficulty. The basic meaning is with difficulty, but of course, it's the derivative meaning. Um, scarcely right would be good here. So it's an adverb basically. The main thing, as you probably know, is first thing we need to know what part of speech it is, right? Uh, uh, we distinguish parts of speech and parts of the sentence. We had problem last time with, anyway. So this is an adverb basically, right?
Yeah.
And we need to understand which any adverb, as the name tells, is adverb. So it qualifies some verb, sometimes an implicit verb, but still.
Okay. So the verb there, antheo, is
Oh, unfair. You took it as a
oh, sorry.
verb. You
No,
took it as
it's
a
not.
verb.
The accent is wrong.
Yeah.
Um, so what should it be?
Do you have Perseus? It
Yes.
you can type in any form and it will give you all parameters.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna have to open it up here.
Right. No,
My
but let's
computer.
Richard, Adam, you can jump in. Let's make it to make it more vivid, like, oh, not the word, not vivid, but you understand, like
I think it's
lively.
like,
Huh?
is it like Flower, like an anthology?
Oh, right, absolutely right. Great. Yes, yes, it's
I don't understand what he's saying, but that's what I thought it was.
Okay, so we know now that it's a noun, and in what case?
Dative.
Yes, so it's
Oh, okay. To the
qualified
highest
by
bloom or the highest blossom.
right.
To the highest blossom of mind, of the mind.
Right, but now that's right. By the way, I guess Richard last time was asking about technical expression. This is a technical expression, I might
Oh,
tell you, the highest bloom or blossom of the mind. But you will see that it's from Neoplatonic kind of vocabulary. Unfortunately, Zuchla's apparatus, she doesn't catch any such things here. Her apparatus is very good for the main text, but here, I mean, it frankly sucks. But you'll see that it doesn't matter actually because but just for your information, this highest it's something like if you know like this chakras, like this is top of the head chakra. This think of this. It's the highest flow of the mind, and yeah, it's well, it's any joke has a portion of joke, as they say, right? So basically, but that's enough to know. But main point is to see what is the the function of dative here, because as I heard you call, you took it to be like a destination almost to you inserted like to the highest bloom of the mind, but dative has other meanings. So
I suppose it could be instrumental dative.
right, I think also it's better to take it as instrumental, and it would be then an instrument of what action expressed by what verb.
Sinoin to
Well, that's too far.
okay.
Any other suggestions?
Epistepsin.
Yes, epistesian, I think that's better. So let's think, um, and I see the track you're going, so I want to give kind of sign of warning, because it looks to me that you are tending to translate it despite our agreement, and I take it as an agreement because there's a Russian saying, silence is a sign of content. Sounds maybe a bit nasty, but well. Anyway, I suggested that we translate it as an assertion, not as a question. And now if we're, because, and translate it as an assertion, as I mentioned last time, something should be done with this anermineftos, because I don't know how, if you take anermineftos as just complementing logikos, in other words, logikos, comma, anermineftos, something like that, as I heard you, these two adverbs would go as two qualifications, qualifications of epistepsian, then how do you get the assertion out of the whole thing? you need to get an assertion because you need to take this punctuation mark seriously. So,
Okay.
Any suggestions? Well, as I mentioned, maybe it's didn't sink in. The only way to do it, as of which I know, and of which apparently the Latin translation in Patrologia Graeca knew, is to take implied verb echi in impersonal sense. So on this reading, you insert here mentally echi anermineftos. You see, echi with an adverb is equivalent to estin with an adjective. And it would be impersonal. So it could be easier, of course, because more commonly used implied estin, anermenefton. So is impossible to explain. So if you take it this way, so then it would be this clause would be the object of what is impossible to explain. So how
Okay.
okay. So
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was following you there.
right.
But
Well,
keep going.
if you already got it, then you can take it from there, right?
I
So
hope so. We'll see.
uh-huh.
Okay, so for it is impossible to explain how anyone can know logically if scarcely the highest flower
No,
of,
if me or me is important here.
okay, if not if yeah, if not scarcely the highest flower of the mind,
But by the flower, because we took it to instrumentally. By
right,
the
right. If not scarcely by the highest flower of the mind, regarding God, the ignorance regarding God, which is at some time or at any time.
well, here it is
No.
hoti potestin. That's maybe Adam or Richard have any. It's kind of quite idiomatic in Greek. Hoti what? Okay, sorry, Adam or Richard, do you have any?
Whatever it is.
Yes, more adequately to put it in English idiom, what in the world it is, right? It's a, I never could figure what the world has to do with it, but well, so people speak in America at least. And yes, so what in the world it is. But here, it or estin, of course, third person. Here we have a question to what is the subject of the third person? What are the candidates for the subject?
I think it's the agnosia.
Right, agnosia would be one subject, but then the meaning would be a little strange, right? To know what is unknowing, right? That's
I think that's
possible. I'm not denying it, but let's other candidates.
I thought that was the paradox in this passage, that he's trying to know the thing that you don't know.
Yes, it is. But there's one more candidate. Any suggestions?
The nous, maybe?
No, nous is not an object, even a supposed object of knowledge. But
Is it the thing above every being?
no, I think it's a close one. Just theos, theos.
Okay.
So that's I'm not insisting that this is the case. And to even start thinking of it, we need to think about the meaning of this whole scholium. But I think this is a possible candidate because, of course, it's not so grammatically smooth. Of course, grammatically, right, agnosia so would be is the nearest kind of noun which would fit. But frankly, it's a little, well, anyway, I would say theos is a possible candidate. It would be a little bit agrammatical, but perfectly possible. So in other words, on this count, this but let's continue. Let's leave it suspended and let's keep it cool. Let's go.
Okay. So through pure worship,
or piety rather.
okay, through pure piety, is able to know wordlessly.
Right. Know or become conscious of or
Yeah.
sinoin. Well, but now Dynaminos you translated as infinitive. Oh, so I heard.
Uh,
Or how did you, what do you make of Dynaminos?
no, I translated sinoin as infinitive.
Right.
Able to know.
Yes. But how do you understand the force of the what is it?
I'm not even sure what it refers to, so I
Right.
get
So
lost.
yes, and that's the key question. One of the key questions. The number of key questions here. It's a very interesting. It's a deep passage, so that's why I want us to kind of to stay
Does
with it.
the Dynaminos modify the tis earlier at the beginning of the post?
Yes, exactly. So that's the statement. So in other words, roughly for now, it's impossible to explain how one could logically. I think you at first you translated logikos somewhat differently, but I think logically is a good translation, and I'll explain why. So it's impossible to explain echi anermineftos, how one could possibly logically know this hyper, that which is above every or any essence of being, right? Except, so how anyone except the one who is able to wordlessly become conscious sinain by means, I think actually now as I'm translating, this instrumental dative goes not with epistesian, but with the sinoin. So unless the one who is able by the highest blossom of their mind to become conscious, and with difficulty, of course, yes, become conscious of the unknowing about God. And then we have two options, namely what in the world it is. In other words, on this reading, the unknowing be of what in the world God is. On other reading, that what on the world it is, the unknowing itself. And of course, the second one is more paradoxical, and I also like it, but that kind of would be super Zen, which I think be a little bit anachronistic to expect of this author, but I like it personally. But let's first um, uh, think what does it what's the train of thought here? Does anyone have an idea? Yes.
It seems like, well, in the passage at the beginning that we read last time, his train of thought was that we can't use human wisdom because the paradigm case of human rationality is the formal system of geometry. But geometrical reasoning gets its plausibility from spatial, physical, bodily beings, abstracting from them. But to understand something bodiless, rationality would be incapable. And so it's got to be this like peculiar uh akritatos anthos nous to nous that would know God.
Yes, basically I agree with that, but let's try to look more specifically, because there's a clear parallel between the two parts. The one, so what is claimed is this analogy between anthropini sophia, right, and the knowledge of that which is above any ousia. There's this analogy. But also there's some parallel here, and we can see it, because it's not just the matter, as we discussed last time, it's not just the matter, we know that geometry doesn't just abstract from geometrical figures. That is not what is meant in the first part. What is meant is that, in all plausibility, is that geometry needs axioms or postulates which are immediately unfalsifiably true, right? We like I'm afraid I'll
Two parallel lines will never meet.
right, something, yes, something like that, whatever the formulation. I always formulated wrongly this most famous axiom, which was denied by further geometry. But anyway, right, something like that. So this is what we at least immediately appears as true. It doesn't require any proof by itself. That's why it can serve as a foundation, or as the technical term goes, for me, launching point, starting point for all syllogistic reasoning based on it. Ton syllogismon, and this syllogismon matches this logikos. So any knowledge uses, I think that's what this parallel that indicates, that still, even for the knowledge of this those hyperasomaton, for it to be knowledge, it has to be probably based on some inferences, but for inferences not go infinitely to avoid infinite regress, right? So we base our statement on something, then we need to base that statement on something, and that statement on something. So we need to come to something that is immediately and unfalsifiably true. in the case of geometry, we know what it is, these axioms. But then he asks, pos antis epistician, the bite of the question is, what would be that starting point? What would be analogous to this starting point here? And that's what, and it's hard to tell. That's why you say it would be it's anermineftos. It's hard to explain unless. So who could logically know? So with geometry, it is clear. Anyone who looks and sees that parallel the lines don't intersect. But here, who could be the possessor or who could claim such knowledge? And he gives an answer that someone who is able to come into direct contact with the divinity. And how is this direct contact achievable? Remember, synaptometer from the main text. From that's in the main text we have here. Do you see, right? Synaptometer. Agnostis. You remember this passage. Come into contact, we translated it. So here, that would be someone who will alalitos, pre-verbally, just as or pre-verbally, because you see, here's a play. Logikos means logically in the context of syllogismon. It's a good translation, but can also mean, and another meaning is just verbally. And here, alalitos is non-verbally. Likewise, any operation of the nous, noin, sinoin, is non-verbal. It's nous comes in direct contact with the how would be English? They call intelligibles, but it's intellect and intelligibles not very good. I'm not sure what would be good translation into English, but there is a difference between logos and nous, right? Logos proceeds discursively by syllogisms and also by combining words into a sentence, because logos means not just one single word. It means an act of speech, what we would call a sentence, whether which gives a complete pronouncement. So and here, of course, alalitos, if you remember Romans 8:26, St. Paul, he says that the Spirit in us praise alalitos, or something like that. And this explains indirectly also is a gloss on pneumatokinitu ton theologon dynamius. So this is, as I said, and now we come on the whole point of this gloss. So it's this column. It's proposes an explanation of this katatin kritanatis kathemas logikis kenoiras din anything. So this is this contact with the divine is accomplished with the possible is is a union, or henosis is a verbal noun, so it means unification, right? Based on the which is how it's said, the so according to the unification of according to the better or stronger unification than our logical or verbal, again, this this pair, and we may say mental meaning not necessarily logical, power, right? So that it is better than our power. That explains why we have agnosia here, right? So so with this highest blossom of the mind, which for the Neoplatonist was an organ by which the mind could touch the one, the highest level of the ultimate level of reality. But here it is, the meaning is changed. This as I see it, because with this even highest blossom of the mind, one can only achieve the unknowing about God. And that is the starting point, still paradoxical starting point, whether we take hotipote estin, having estin having theos as its implied subject, or agnosia. The paradox is that this direct contact on which any logical logical construction of knowledge regarding that divine reality could be built, its starting point is this unknowing. But it's not unknowing of just like some of someone who haven't even heard of God, for instance, but it's an unknowing based on direct contact, non-verbal contact of the mind. Yes, that's how I see it. So do you have any questions or suggestions here? Okay, if not, then let's go back to the text, and we have soon the next. I will not overburden you with the school. I just want to give you a taste of it. And of course, you are welcome to come up with any scholar you would like yourself to bring in. Just send email to everyone that you propose to read a scholium to, because you find it useful or intriguing. So in other words, right, so we have an epistemic failure as the foundation of any possible knowledge of divinity. That's the paradox. It's an okay, and of course you know this work, Cloud of Unknowing. That's the distant echo of this thought in English. It's classics. All right. So we come to Richard.
Okay.
Okay, we're here, right?
Should I read the Greek?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Kathalu toigar un utometeon epein utemein enoesai te perite superusiu kai krufias theotetos parata theodos hemin ekton hieron logion ek pephasmena. In general, therefore, we ought not to dare to say or indeed to think anything concerning the supernatural and, or I guess, I don't know,
No, that's not supernatural. Supernatural would be
super, well,
right.
above being, whatever. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Supernatural to spooky, right?
Yeah. The above the divinity which is above being and is hidden. So we ought not to say or think anything about it besides those things divinely, I guess, like imparted to us or something.
Right, given, yeah.
Uh,
Well, no, sorry, ekpephasmena. No. Divinely ekpephasmena. Well, what?
It looks like it comes from fame, so spoken.
No,
To be
it's
revealed.
Is it
revealed.
revealed? Okay.
It's pheno. Pheno. It's
Oh,
like
okay.
phenomenon. Is yeah.
Okay. So divinely revealed to us out of the holy oracles or scriptures or whatever that word means.
Yes. Yes.
Sayings.
Right. Well, okay. So, but here he says tiharun. So he means it as inference from the previous. So, do you have any thoughts about how this follows from the previous?
Well, I don't exactly know. I'm having a hard time following his train of thought, but I think that he's saying something like we can say some things. Okay, so we start from this place of unknowing, but there are some things that it's licit to say because they're revealed to us, I assume in the Bible or in or is that
Yes, basically yes. But anyone has anything to add to this?
Is it that we don't have any so-called aphormai to build arguments from, so we have to just go with the logia as our
Yes, that's
first
also
principle?
very important. But there is any other additional thoughts about it? I think there is something more to it. So
It seems like there's also he uses that verb telmeteon, like it's risky to use the wrong kind of language because you might inadvertently import corporeal metaphors or something.
right. But additional thing I wanted to bring your attention to. Remember, in exchange after the previous class, uh, mm, uh, I pointed out that in Zuchla's edition, in the apparatus, she points out regarding this this term logion or logia that's used here and translated as oracle. Actually, that's a very biblical expression, and she gives references. I don't. I indicated in email to what line is it? Oh, just a second. Yes, it's in previous page probably. Um, Yes, you see, line 5, ton logian, and she gives 4 passages from a New Testament where logia are used and actually translated, as I looked at least in RSV, translated as oracles. Yeah, it's not that pagan as it could seem. And what interestingly, as I brought to your attention, the first of this, if I remember correctly, or at least one of these, implies that this is something the person who would I would I wish I could find my email because I kind of phrased it. It was last Monday. Okay. Just yeah. Okay. Yes. So I wrote. No, I didn't. Oh, okay. In postscriptum, I wrote that you see those from the reference to Acts 7:38, one may infer that by the theologians are brought in as the persons through whom we get this hierologia, right? Holy oracles, right? So that by those theologians, one may infer from that passage, one is to understand people like Moses, whose knowledge of the divine is based on a direct contact with it, not on any syllogisms. And I think it squares very well with this traditional account of Moses's ascent on this mountain, right, on the Sinai, where here in the darkness he receives this revelation, and this is a paradigm of mystical experience in Gregory of Nyssa, and actually in Dionysius in his short treatise on the mystical theology. So, and I think this explains why he gives us this injunction to to rely strictly on this, what is revealed to us, because we are not everyone is Moses of us, right? So this is Moses. Moses is the one who is vinamenos sinoen. So that, but not all of us. So we are to rely on people like Moses, on the theologians, I think, who are moved by the Spirit, and again, as I said, it's reference to Paul 8:26, Romans 8:26. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's the force of this Tiharun. All right. Any questions about this? Okay. Then we lost Adam again, right? Okay.
By the way, for there's a textual variant between this edition and Leela. He has te, and he deletes te.
Right.
Yeah.
I pulled out the wrong PDF. Sorry. Yes, and I think Leela's. It's one of the passages which I think Leela gives a much better meaning. Sorry. You should have corrected me because yes, actually we stopped in the middle of the sentence. If we take the punctate, no, wrong. We did the whole sentence. Now we start the new sentence. Okay, please, Adam.
Taking the verb on the next page first, anatheteon, like one must attribute the the knowledge, the episteme, which is beyond being, to or I guess by means of the ignorance, which is beyond logos and beyond mind and beyond being.
Uh, right, but you take agnosia, this dative, as instrumental.
I was taking it with the te. Is that the or oh no, I was taking it as a dative with anathetion. If you
right.
translate.
So can you please? So what? How does it all fit together? Can you say again?
One must attribute the episteme huperusion, the knowledge beyond being,
Right.
to the agnosia, to the ignorance, which is beyond logos, beyond speech, and beyond mind, and beyond.
Right. Ignorance. Yeah, agnosia. Well, it's literally can mean ignorance, but ignorance. I would use this.
Unknowing, or maybe
Unknowing, although grammatically, of course, unknowing is what's it called in English? It's anyway. So it's a different grammatical form. It's not agnosia is plain noun. So it grammatically it would be more fitting. But ignorance, he doesn't mean ignorance. Strictly speaking, in Greek, ignorance would be amathia. Like something which is bad, but here
right.
it's yeah. Now anatheteon, of course, right? It's one of the best probably of the meanings that dictionaries give, but here when sometimes cheating helps, I looked up what Lila does with this. Is how does he? Richard, you have the book, right? How he found some better which dictions don't give, but it's still quite legit. I'm sure it's trace back, trace back, and so one is to trace back this knowledge to this unknowing, which would be, first of all, I don't know whether Lila meant it, whether Lila meant or was taken account into that of that scholium, which we just translated, but it perfectly fits with that commentary of that scholium that we are to trace back, just like in geometry, any knowledge is traceable back to the axioms, to these 5 axioms. So here we are to trace back and it again it says God. So he explains even more. Actually, he says that's precisely this is why. In the previous sentence, we shouldn't dare to say or even think about this, about the divinity, anything on top of this logion, because the knowledge of it is traceable back to that unknowing, which is pneumakinitos, so which is above any of our powers, but is produced by the spirit, and of which and for which is for us, I mean, which is unknown, which is not a lot of every one of us. That's how I think that's why I think this Lila's suggestion to trace back is very good. And now, of course, we don't have much time, but let's, because we started later, let's start call. Do you want to start at least this? We have this second scholium to this expression hyperousiotitos, right? Which was in our sentence. So hyperousiotitos, where was it? Unknowing that above beingness. Well, and I just I'm tempted. I've got kind of addicted because also of my weakness of my English. He translated as well, he gives a super how to say anyway, he paraphrases it. Yes, not this case, not very helpful. Oh, by the way, how Adam was translating, right? How did you translate Keusian aftin?
Substance itself.
Yeah, and yeah, and it's intensifying, right? And even some, and the substance. So not just logos and nous, but even substance itself. Substance in the sense of beingness. I would say ousia is best translated as beingness, and then would be then okay. So maybe Cole, would you? So we have this colon of this in hyperousiotitos.
Mm-hmm. So if being is or if beingness is said to be beyond being.
Well, beyond is one of possibilities, but let's okay, let's maybe read a little bit further and think whether that makes sense in this context.
Okay. Um, but being paragogis is like led of something, being led.
Yeah, I would say production would be although I didn't find it in the dictionaries, but given that Latin duco means I lead, and production is made out of it.
Okay.
So production, I think, although it would, if it was strictly the same form with pro-agogis, but pro-agogi has slightly different meanings, but paragogi is I think production would still be very good translation. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I suppose it's a genitive absolute. So, but being, having been produced, having been being of some production.
But wait a second. Genitive absolute requires a participle in the genitive case,
Okay.
which we don't have here. Let's find the verb, the main verb.
So hypographe.
You're right. Yes. So and what would be the subject?
toine,
Yes. And the direct object?
enoian, and enian.
Right. And it would be qualified enian paraugistinos. So
So
being, yes. Uh-huh.
so yeah, being under rights. I don't know what the prefix "n" means in front of enian.
We take it just as the thought of, the idea of, the thought of.
The thought of some production.
Right. Underwrites, I'm not sure what this English word means, but basically implies.
Okay.
Or right. So let's pause here, because here is important question on which I wish you to think. So first of all, given that, probably, so here is actually a syllogism. And okay, let's read the end of it. Ukon legete okay, so
Yeah, no one would say being is above God in a lordly way, or nobody would say that being underwrites God.
well, other suggestions? Well, several things. Kyrios here does mean lordly. It means properly, in the proper sense. If you look it up, so
Right. So nobody would say nobody would speak properly or speak
yes,
precisely.
yes. Speak in the case of God would speak of beingness. In other words, so you see, this is the main premise, the minor premise, that what's called the second premise. Anyway, there's one premise, the second premise, and the conclusion, right? The conclusion is that one cannot speak in the proper sense of any ousia in the case of God. And this is supposed to follow from these two premises. Now we are definitely out of time, but I leave it. I think maybe you'll find it entertaining to think of how to make sense, how to understand. In other words, how to understand these two premises, how to translate it exactly, so that from them it would follow, because he makes it a point. He makes it. He just doesn't just claim it. He uh, he claims to have deduced it from these two premises, and that explains a lot. That's a very key point in this whole treatise. One point is epistemological, uh, um, which we dealt with in connection with the first column. The second point is ontological. Why God, or divinity, strictly speaking, the scholiast have theos, but in the text itself, it's theotis, divinity. That's I will not spoil it for you, but that's important. Anyway, so for now, just either God or divinity. Why is it we cannot say that it is? And that's the main point. You'll see it. It's the central point in this whole corpus, Dionysian corpus. God is not. That's the real paradox. And he's not an atheist. Anyway, really out of time, so thank you. And I'll stop recording now. And